Right, so thus far we've used the configuration panels to configure all the different, that was a bad choice, all the different interfaces and devices on your networks that you've been making. However, from this point on we're going to start using the command line, which is just this bit. When actually working on a network, you wouldn't have access to just go into a device and start playing with these options. When creating VLANs, which we will do at some point, you wouldn't just create it through here, you would do it all through command line, but I'll get to all of that. So command line, as you've all played with, is pretty much just a user interface where you will type in commands and you will get some information based off of whatever command you've typed in. There's a fair few that we'll play with. In the real world you would have your device, and the way that this works, we have what is called a rollover cable. That's coaxial battery. Where's it at? There we go. Rollover cable, also known as a console cable. Actually select it. And this is where the RS-232 connection comes in. This is your serial port on your laptop or PC, and then you would connect it to the console port, on your device. Obviously, because it's a laptop, you would use the desktop most likely. And it's the terminal. So command prompt is, just like command prompt on your computer, but terminal is actually establishing a connection to remotely, I suppose, access the device so you can configure things. You won't necessarily be doing it this way, but I'm just going to quickly show you. Leave these as default, so it's a transfer rate of 9600 bits per second. Each data bit is a maximum of 8 bits, so 1 byte. We don't use any parity because we don't need any error checking because it's ridiculously small. If it was bigger, maybe. And a stop bit is just to say this is the end of each packet, I suppose. And we don't need any flow control. And there you go. I'll just maximise that. That is me. I've accessed the router. As you can see, it's got a load of information. So that was it booting, if you like, some basic information. Because I've already gone into this router, if I do for the other one, I'm just gonna go back in the terminal, establish that connection. If I press enter, oh, it's not going to do it on here. Maybe it's only when you do it in the thing. Anyways, sometimes it says, do you want to start going through basic setup? The answer's going to be no. I'm just going to delete that because we're just going to be clicking on each of the devices to make it easier. You can rename them, so you can click on the name and type whatever name you want in. I'm not fussed because this is just a demo. One of the other things that I want you to notice are these network IDs. At some point we are going to go through subnetting, binary and all the rest of it. But ultimately this is just stating what the network ID is of each network. So the network ID is 172.168.100.0. Because we're using a CIDR of 24, that means our subnet mask is made up of 24 bits. Each IP address is 32 bits, which means that the last 8 bits, because 32 minus 24 is 8, means we can use 8 bits for our hosts. The very first available IP address, 0 in our case, is the network ID. The very last one, because we're using 8 bits in Dean Rees 255, that will be our broadcast address. But again, we will cover that. This is just a basic, simple explanation of how to get two routers to route information from networks. The very first thing that we need to do is on one of our routers, let's make that full screen, after enabling it. So you start off in basic normal mode. You type enable. I've just typed EN because it's quicker. But you type enable, and that'll get you into privilege mode. But with privilege mode, you can do things like show start. But because this is new, it won't show you anything. You can do copy run start, which basically saves the current. Press enter there. Basically saves the current running configuration to the flash memory that's within the router, and then if we do show start again, it'll give us the basic information of what's going on. And because we don't have any configurations yet, it'll just tell us that the host name is still router. We can change that. There's no IP configurations. There's no configurations on the interfaces. They're all set as standards. Excuse me. And we're only using VLAN 1, which is the default VLAN on every network device, interconnection device, I suppose. But yeah, so to be able to actually configure anything, we need to type config t, which is configure terminal. Actually, if I cheat and do that, you can see configure terminal. If I press enter, it's now I'm able to actually configure things. If I put this half and half, because we're working on this side of the network first, there are two connections, as we can see, gig 0/0 and SE 0/0/0. That is the interface identification for when we're actually typing things in to configure. So as you can see, each of them are off at the moment. For this connection to happen, which none of this is configured yet, by the way, all I want is to be able to get any network from this ID to be able to travel to the other network on this ID through this connection here. This is a serial cable. It's a DCE serial cable, so it's this one. It's basically just, it's a clock configuration, if you like. So we need to set, and if I scroll back up, this clock rate here, that is basically saying that every 2 million cycles, or whatever, to send out the information that is waiting to be sent out at this router. It is half duplex, so it only sends out information or receives information on the cable, but it's the basic configuration that you're going to learn. And we're going to be using a routing protocol called RIPv2, which is just routing IP. So without further ado, we're going to configure the interface on gig 0 first. So int, obviously, for interface, and again I can tab to get the full thing, and then it's G, I could type gig, but you don't need to, G00, and then you can say here I'm in configuration interface IF, that's all that means. When you play with some Linux based operating systems, hopefully in the near future, instead of IP configuration you would type IF configuration, because it's interface configuration. So the only difference between Linux and Microsoft, I suppose, when it comes to that. Well, one of few. So we're in there. We need to give it an IP address, and all you do is type IP address, and in our case this is our default gateway. So there's different ways we can do it. The chap that I follow, that I've learned from, he always uses the last available IP address. And as I say, if we've got a side area of /24, that means our subnet mask is going to be 255.255.255.0. So we can go from 0 as our network ID, then our first host IP address would be 1 after it. So we could go from 1 all the way to 255, which would be our broadcast address, minus 1, so 254. So the last IP address in our scope is going to be 254. Now, when you've been following my walkthroughs on the virtual machines, you'll have noticed that I went from 1 to 254, and that's the reason why, is because you've got your network host and your broadcast address. But again, when you go through the subnetting video, which is also available, it'll explain all of that. But I digress. So I need to give it a 172.17.100, and I'm going to use the very last available host. And then all of these will start from 1, probably, 2, probably, and 3, probably. But again, I'm not actually going to configure everything. So after putting in the address, I need to put the subnet mask, which is what I said it was. So again, 8 bits, 8 bits, 8 bits make up 24. So 0 at the end. Do that, and then type no shut, and you will see the green light. So that's that one done. Easier. So that would be the equivalent. Oh, I'm already in it. That would be the equivalent of me just clicking on here and typing the information there, which is what you've done in the past. But once more, you don't have that ability on actual routing devices like this. Yeah, and again, so now we've done that, I can type exit. In fact, I'll do that. If I type exit, you'll notice that I've just gone back to configuration mode. So this time I can type, because I'm wanting to do this serial connection here, and bear in mind this little clock because it's important. To configure the IP address, I'm using this network. So I'm going to start, well, let's start with the CIDR. Because I'm using 30 bits, means I've got 2 bits at the end to use. So 2 bits, 1 and 2 makes 3, if you include 0, which is our ID. We can count from 0 all the way to 3, but 3 is going to be our broadcast, so we can only use 1 and 2. Brief, but that's the gist of why I've used 30, just to again break things up a bit for you, to show you how we can use binary, because you need to know basically. So interface, oh no, I've already done that part. IP address, so IP address 10.0.0.1 255.255.255.252, because again 255 minus those last 2 bits, which is 1 and 2, added together makes 3, from 255 makes 252. But I'll give you all of this, well, most of this on a text document. It'll be up to you to figure it out, because I mean, I'm only giving you surface learning as it is. So again, if I hover over that, you can see that I've got my gigabit 0/0 as 172.168.100.254, and then my serial as 10.0.0.1, and that's the thing. Now, because this is a serial connection, and as I've just said, the timings is about how the clock rate, I suppose, of how data is being sent back and forth. We need to configure the clock rate on this side, but we don't need to bother about it on this side, because this side would just be sending it, or wait, well, would have it, would be, let's start again. This side, when it's sending, it would get a message say you're going to receive some information, so it would get it. And then when it's this side's waiting to receive, this side would have the basically the opposite. So if you imagine a bit saying 0 from this side, means that I'm sending you information, and then it would end with a 1, which means that you can send me information, and then 0 and 1 and back and forth. Basically, it's not exactly how it works, to be honest, but just to try and help you understand, I suppose. So basically, we need to set the clock rate, and the chap again that I follow always sets it at 4 million. You can set it whatever you want, to be honest, as long as it's high. Again, if we scroll back, you can see that the default clock rate is 2 million, but we're going to set it as 4 million, just cause. And then again, we need to open it. So no shut is the command to open the interface. To enable the interface. To disable the interface, we will type shut, and basically just means that it's not shut down. Simple as. Now it hasn't gone green because this interface isn't turned on yet. And that's the reason why. So before moving on, there's a few things we need to do. So I'm exiting back to privilege mode, is what this is called. So unless you've got config written in brackets there, you're in privilege mode if you've got the hash. I'm going to write copy run start again, which will save our configuration. And you'll see I'm not putting a name there, I'm just leaving it as the default name, so you just press enter. And then there's a command we can do called show IP int brief. So we're showing the IP interface brief, if we were to type it out properly. And again, gives us the information that we had when I hovered over there. The only thing it doesn't show, and if I just make it full screen so it's all on the same line, the only thing that it doesn't show is our CIDR, but that's fine. So it shows you the IP configuration of each of those devices, and that's it. That's pretty much all we needed to do there. That of course hasn't configured our routing IPs or anything like that. To do that, we actually need to go back into config T, and what we do is we say that we're going to use routing protocol, so router, and we're going to use RIP. There's other ones available, and in fact if I show you that, so that was just a question mark after whatever command I've put in, and it tells you what we can use. So there's BGP, there's EIGRP, which is probably the most common one, OSPF, which is also very common, and RIP, which in all honesty very few people use anymore, but I'm using it because we're using serial, and yeah, just basically because it's slightly more complicated. So if you can get your head around the complicated one, doing the easier ones obviously should make it easier, but we'll see. So we're going to use router RIP. If I press question mark again, it tells us all the different commands that we've got. Now at the moment that's just RIP1, but we don't want to use RIP1, we want to use version 2, RIPv2. Done. The next part of it, so this part, it says network. This is the next command we're going to use. Enable routing on an IP network, and all that is, so it's saying ABCD network number. So what we're doing is we're going to make sure that this network and this network can route on this router. So anything that's coming through this network to get out of it would be routed through that connection. That's all that means. So we need network, start with the 10 network. Couldn't think of what it was called. So sorry. So this connection here is 10.0.0.1, and then we do network 172.17.100.254, remember, because that's this gig connection here. So press enter there. I'm going to use no auto summary command as well. And all that means is, with this CIDR, it would just say that, in honesty, it wouldn't really matter for this network, because it would just go off of, oh, actually no, it would. So 172 is a class B network. The default for that is 172.17.0.0 with a default subnet mask of 255.255.0.0. So you can have 255 times 255 minus 2 IP addresses, and this one is class A, which is 10.0.0.0, but the default gateway is just 255.0.0.0, so it's 255 times 255 times 255 minus 2, those 2 again being your network ID and your broadcast, excuse me. But because we're giving it a CIDR, so we want to select how many hosts we can actually have, we use no auto summary to say these are the 2 that we actually want. So don't summarize it so it's 10.0.0.0 or 172.17.0.0, which it may do. We'll have a look when we do the next couple of commands. But yeah, so that's it. So once more, we've configured the IP addresses of the 2 interfaces that's on our network. We've gone through and we've configured the router to use routing protocol RIP version 2 on network 10.0.0.1 and 172.168.100.254 with no auto summary, and that is the configuration for that. And again, I'm going to exit out to privilege mode. I'm going to do the copy, run, start, save that configuration just in case we need to reset this router, that's all. And then if I do show start again, I'll scroll up, so there's my show start command. The host name hasn't changed, but if we scroll down, our gigabit 00 has now got an IP address. It's using duplex. So you've got simplex, duplex, half duplex and full duplex, and this is just saying duplex auto, so it's just based off of whatever is on the other side, so it'll probably end up being half duplex. So, and then serial, here we go, so there's our clock rate and there's the interface IP address. But as you can see, these other 2 say shut down, which means that the interface, so that one will say shut down as well. This one doesn't, but again it's red because this one isn't turned on, so there's no communication happening, that's all that means. And we're using, and it did it anyways, even though I've said no auto summary. Bugger. Oh well. Be right. So yeah, that shouldn't have happened, but again, it doesn't really matter for this. All we need to know is that router RIP version 2 is configured and these 2 networks are what are going to communicate over this. So you'll notice that I haven't added the network over here, which technically I have, but we'll get to that. Okay, so that's the end of that router. The only other thing I'm going to do is we need to configure one thing on our switch. Again, I'm going to do it in command line. So this interface here, this gig 0/1, which is on this switch here, we need to set this to what's called trunking. On the PowerPoint that you've got, it tells you what trunking is, but ultimately all it means is that more than one connection, one communication can happen at a time on that port. That's all it means. So it trunks all those connections, communications together, instead of just allowing this one to happen, or this one to happen, or this one to happen. I'm not going to configure the rest because I don't need to, just this one. So again, none of these are configured. I'm going to set this to trunking, and then actually no, I'll set it to trunking and just show you how to do it, and then you can configure the rest to make it work. So again, we enable to go into privilege mode, config T to go into configuration, it's interface gigabyte 0/1, and then we want to change switch port mode to trunking. Is it just trunk? Yeah, just trunk. So it says here, so it sets the mode to trunk unconditionally. We could set it as dynamic, but it wouldn't actually. The dynamic basically happens from other switches. Access is what it is at the moment, so it's just allowing access on VLAN 1, sorry, whereas trunk would allow access on any VLAN to happen. So we do that, and you can see it's gone amber. If I fast forward, it goes green. And again, if I do exit and exit again, and we do show int brief, show int status then. It's saying connected auto, that's not what I wanted. Show. I'm going to leave this in so you can see me actually try and figure this out. So show VLAN brief. So that's VLAN. So I don't want VLAN. I want trunk. And I want to be able to type properly. Oh wait, man. Show trunk status. No, doesn't understand it. Show been a while since I've done this. Why wouldn't it do show start? Oh, need to save it to. There we go, that'll do. Close enough. There is an easier way of doing that. I mean, the easiest way is just hovering over it, and you'll see that gigabit Ethernet 0/1 says that it's up, but it's got 2 lines next to it instead of a VLAN number. Just means that it's trunk, but also says there switch port mode trunk. Okay. As I say, any mistakes that I make, I always leave them in, just so that you can see that how to figure it out basically, because ultimately I'm not expecting you to know exactly what's going on. Like, this video is going to probably blow your minds. Some of you might be alright. Anyways, done that side, we need to do this side now. So I'm going to open this router, go to command line, enable config t int, so again it's this gigabit 0/0. Oh, G first, excuse me, IP address 172.17.200, because 200.254, because again, the last available excuse me, IP address in that scope is 254, because the broadcast is 255. Subnet mask is that. And there we go, and no should will enable that. Leave it as it is, leave it to go. Now I could go exit and whatnot, but you don't need to. That just changes, like this part hasn't changed, but now I'm configuring this interface. So IP address, oh I missed my P. IP address, so this is this end, which was 10.0.0.2, because that was 1, that was 2, so 0 network ID, 1, 2, 4 broadcast, end of available IP addresses. 255.255.255.252. Again, watch the subnetting video to get a better understanding of that. Once more, because this side doesn't have the little clock on it, this is the actual clock rate side, we don't need to do anything. So this would be the DTE side, if you like. So we're going to leave that as it is. I do need to turn the port on. Now you'll see that both have gone green. I'll just press enter a couple of times. There is another cheating command. So it's just saying that we've turned the interface on and line protocol is changed to up. So the line protocol is just the fact that it's establishing that communication, if you like. So we've turned it on, it's established a communication, we're there. We shouldn't get any more commands from that, interruptions, notes, whatever. As I say, I could exit and exit again to get back to do the copy run start, or I can do WR and that just writes it anyways. Doesn't ask me if I want to change the file name, which you shouldn't do this unless you've already created the file properly. But this is packet tracer. If you break it, just delete it and start again. So I've wrote that. I can do show IP int brief, and again we've got gigabit 00 for 172.168.200.254, which is this one, and then 10.0.0.0.10.0.0.2 for this one, and they're both turned on. And that's it. That is the configuration of that. However, we do need to do the router, the routing. So we need to do router rip. So I am going to exit once. So I'm just going back into config mod. Router rip version 2. And again, this is network 10.0.0.2. Actually, I'll tell you what I'll do. See if it makes any difference. Let's do no auto summary first, and then we'll do network 10.0.0.2 and network 172.17.200.254. Well, that should go 0 anyways. No, I know why that's doing that. Yeah, I know why that's doing that. No, I don't know why that's doing that. Because then that would... Sorry, I'm just thinking. Because that would go to 0 anyways, because that's the network ID for this network. But that should still be on the other one, 100.0, and this should be 200.0. Because we're using no auto summary, which means that would not go on for the subnet for these private IP addresses. But I digress. So I've got my no auto summary, done that. Again, do WR to write that configuration. I'll do show start. And let's have a quick dig. So we still haven't configured the name of the router, so it's just router. We can change that to like R1 and R2, but which you would do in the real world. You'd name it like the different sites, so like Workington and Whitehaven or something like that. But I digress. There's our network IP address for this side of the network, or for this network, sorry, this side of the router. And there's the IP address for this side of the router. Again, as you'll see, clock rate there, look, but no clock rate there, because we don't need one, because the clock rate's already configured on this side. This is the terminating end, so doesn't need to know. Again, oh well, I'm sure there's a reason why it shows up like that. It is saying that it's classless. If it was class full, then it would go for all of these available IP addresses. So at least there's that. That's maybe what this no auto summary does. again, I'm learning along with you on some of these things. But yeah, that's it. That's the configuration. Now we can Control and Z takes us back to privilege mode, so we're not in configuration. We can, while we're in here, ping. So I'm going to ping so I'm in this router at the moment, so I want to ping this one. So first of all, I'm going to ping the other IP address, and there we go, 5 sent, 5 received, 100%. But let's see if I can get to the other side of the router. This is sometimes where it goes wrong. So 172.17.100.254. Successful. So routing is happening in this router. Now I have configured this switch, so what I'm going to quickly do, I'm going to go and give this a static IP address, 172.17.100.1, because I've used 254 here, I can use 1 here. See how it's automatically given an IP address like that, but we don't want that. We want that again based off of the CIDR. So we've got these 8 bits here for IP addresses. Default gateway, we need a default gateway, which is our way out of the network, which is IP address on this side. So 172.17.100.254. We don't have a DNS server set up yet, so I'm not going to set anything there. Eventually we can do, but as it is, we've done that. And then let us try it. We'll ping from here. So I'm going to ping first of all that I can get to the default gateway. Yep. Can I get to the other side of the default gateway? Yep. Can I get to the other network? Yes. Can I get to the other side of the other network? Yes. So what's happening there? If I do God, I can't remember what it's called. Trace route, trace route, whatever. Let's make that full screen on that side. So again, this is all coming from this server here. I'm going to see trace route. Even basically, it shows you how many hops the route that the packets are actually taken to get to the destination. As it is, all it'll do is it'll go there to there. If we had more routers and we had the routers set up in a mesh or something like that, there's multiple routes that it could take, then it would show us which one it decided was the best route for to send the packets. But as it is, so 172.17.200.254. So there we go. So all it's saying is it went from 100 to 200. That's all it is. And that's how quick it took. Easier. Lastly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure the trunking port. Actually, before I do, I'll just quickly show you what I mean. So we've got a we've got a web server here. I've already been in and changed the file name. So if I go to the web browser and I put the IP address for that one, I'm not going to get anything, because at this present moment in time this server is unable to go anywhere. One of the main reasons that server is unable to go anywhere because I haven't set the IP address. Come on, barrier. 1.255.255.255.0 172.170.200.254 and then nothing, and then let's just quickly give that another go. 172.17.100.1. That's interesting. Oh, okay, cool. So you can get there. So your website, on your own website, would look like this. However, and let's just quickly go to services here. HTTP is off, so we'll just turn them on. So if I go to this one, at the moment it's this web server that I'm trying to reach, the email server at the moment. I just want to see if I can load that page. Yes I can. So maybe I don't need trunking involved. Maybe you only need trunking involved when you've got VLANs working. But hey, who knows? Somebody will. I should probably put buried. There we go. Ooh, more stops. Anyways, that's that. That is the configuration. How long did that take me? Let's have a quick look. 40 minutes. It's a long video, I appreciate, but you'll have all the written documents on Canvas. Just very quickly, as I say, I'll put the text file, well, I'll create a text file and put into one second, I'm just, oops, put the text file into here, put in, oh, not in there, but not in there either. 4.1 hour barrier, god damn it, it's a Sunday, leave us alone. So we've got some basic networks that you've already worked through. Here's a video on subnetting. There's a PowerPoint on subnetting and binary and whatnot, and there's a video on configuring RIP. It should say RIP version 2, but it doesn't. And below that I'll put this video showing how I've configured everything, and then below that I'll put a text file with just the commands that I've used. Pardon me. And then it'll basically be up to you to figure it all out. We will do a proper lesson on subnetting as well, but this is just to get you started. But yeah, have fun. I know I did.